Hope everybody's good. Hope everybody's safe. Hope everybody's healthy or as healthy as possible. If you've been out protesting, put a fist emoji in the comments if you've been out protesting so far this week or last week. Shout out to the police officers out there who are out there trying to do their job while also being black and brown. I know it's extra hard for y'all. Shout out to my fam. I see you. Hope y'all saw that dude in the army who was chanting "I'm black and I'm proud" while he was out there next to a tank or a truck out there during the protest. So I know it's hard for guys like that doing their job and still trying to manage everything. So we're going to talk about that today too. All right. Essentially, what prompted this conversation today was a lot of positive feedback that I got from people that watched my previous videos. Some of you gave a lot of feedback regarding my thoughts on Black trauma. By no means am I a therapist or a psychologist. I'm a Black person, a Black man who experienced or is experiencing certain things. So I shared those things out there, and it seemed to resonate with a lot more people than I thought it initially would, which is dope. So after all that feedback and after talking to a lot of people, I started to kind of do my research on my own and looking at some things, reevaluate stuff that I said. I listened to my own words back after going and posting that video. I think I listened to that video a few more times afterwards and thought about what was I missing, what didn't I talk about, what didn't I address, what should I have addressed more. So I want people to understand that even in this process of new allies joining the fight, you all are trying to do your own part to not educate yourselves, which is great. But also understand that people who are impacted are still doing their part to learn more as well. And I'm no exception to that. You know, I always talk about the fact that I'm an educator and education never stops. And there's a great deal that I need to still learn for myself and for the benefit of others because people are clearly listening now. So now that we have a captivated audience, it's important that one, we continue to express our thoughts and our perspectives. Two, if we're sharing information, that it is accurate information, and it's not just something that we've heard and we're not sure of. So a lot of the things that I talk about, I do try to fact check. If I'm wrong, I want people to correct me. If I post something, sometimes somebody will give me an added perspective or an added view, or link me an article or something like that, and I share it out. And that's part of this process and how we learn, how we grow. So I want to make sure that we make that clear from the jump. Anything that I talk about here is my perspective. Obviously, it's my IG, so anything that I share is my thoughts, my views, my position. You may or may disagree, but that's cool. You know, if you know me well enough, you know that I'm going to hear your thoughts and your contention, or I'll accept your praise and your agreement, and then we'll go from there. Feel free to comment as you see fit. If it's something you want to talk about offline, we do that too. That's totally fine by me. I've been talking a lot about Malcolm and Martin in particular, and I even mentioned, like, as a joke, I talked about Bane and I talked about how movie bad guys are like my favorite sometimes and things like that. And even the video I just posted now is talking about that infamous fight scene between Bane and Batman, and how Bane is looking at Batman and he's saying, you think darkness is your ally, and Bane is unfazed by what Batman is trying to do to him in that sense. And when I watch that video, to me, I see me. I see a black man that is in that's in it. And there are people who think that they can phase me with the stuff that they're doing. And I've been in it for so long, it doesn't bother me. So I have all these people that are coming out of the woodwork now and saying, oh, oh my gosh, this stuff is terrible. I'm like, I was born in the dark. This is nothing new to me, and now that you're shining this light and saying, here, we're here to help you. I'm not going to say it's too late. I'm not going to say I want to respond the way Bane does. All I'm saying is I feel him on that. So when I watch the movie Bad Guys, I can sometimes identify with that. And that particular scene, that's why I mentioned it before and I mentioned it again today. When people kind of jump in and say, we're going to help you, and when we see it now, I've been in it for so long. I'm not going to say that I'm desensitized, but my view and my position on everything is going to be different than yours. And you have to understand that my position is going to be different than yours. You can't expect me to be totally happy with everything that's happening right now, because for so long, for the entirety of my life, I've had a different experience than you have. And I think some of our allies are starting to get to that, which is good, but we're not quite there yet. And the reason why I talk about Black trauma comes Black leaders is that it shouldn't take this much for people to hear us. But now it's happening. Great. However, Black people have been fighting for so long, and most of the prominent Black leaders that we have learned about growing up, not in the school usually at home or within our own communities, we learned about Black leaders, particularly as they emerged through trauma. If you go back to even pre-civil rights, all the people that we looked at that were leading us because they had to lead because we were in danger. We were being traumatized by the oppression faced in America. And that's where people didn't have a choice but to step up and to do something. And when I think about that, I think about myself and me getting out here and putting myself out there without the lack of a typical classroom where I'm used to working, or working on a college campus where I can't go to now. What do I have as my tools to reach people and hear my message and talk about these things? Well, I have a computer and a phone. I have something like Instagram Live where I could talk to people and see if they're going to listen. And maybe they will, maybe they won't. Maybe they'll go back and they'll tune in. Maybe somebody will share it with them. Maybe people I'm talking to already know what I'm saying and it doesn't matter. That's cool. We'll talk anyway. Because the people that are listening, I want you to hear my perspective and my side. Most of what I'm saying is going to come from my perspective, and I'm speaking to people whose perspectives are similar to mine. So when I talk about what I'm doing and how I've gotten to where I'm at, the encouragement from people that I've gotten, from particularly younger Black men who are telling me that they see me, they hear me, and I'm doing something that's inspiring them to get out there and do more, means that I need to keep the pressure on, and I need to do that myself more as well. I even had people text me pictures of them buying the book that I talked about. Had to look forward to reading it. To me, that shows that the impact is there, and it's almost irresponsible of me if I don't continue to take those steps to continue to put that information out in the best way that I can. So when I talk about my classroom coming to IG as an educator, my classroom comes to me wherever I go. Wherever I am is my classroom. The show I could do whatever I do, whether it be here in your living room, at the bus stop, at at dinner, whatever the case is. I'm prepared to do that because I want to do that. I don't want to miss a chance to educate somebody how I can. And this is my platform now, so I want to use that. And I want those that are watching this to continue to be inspired by that, to continue to find your ways to put the message out there and to talk about things from your perspective. Be more empowered now to talk about your story because people are listening to you now. Before they weren't, now they are. Now they have to. People are at home right now. They're quarantined. They're not traveling as much. And as optimistic as everything might seem right now, I'm not sure if this positive momentum is going to stick after everything reopens again. So while we're here, I'm going to talk about all I'm going to talk about. So at least if you're going to be impacted, now is the time. Because in 3 months from now, 4 months from now, when travel opens back up and people are going back to work, it's going to be a lot easier to ignore Black pain the same way everyone was for decades into centuries. I said in a previous video, This stuff is not new, and it's not new. It's not new to black people who have suffered it. Some of you might have saw the picture I posted about Emmett Till, and it's a jarring picture. And for some people, they might not have ever seen that picture until today or recently. But I'm not sure how many people listening to this right now in this chat have seen that picture. Not the picture of him as a handsome faced young man, but the picture of him in his casket by the time they were preteens, when they were also 14 years old, the time that he was lynched. We saw those pictures, and we didn't see them in school. We didn't talk about them in school. We talked about them at home and in our own communities. We needed black leaders to help show us those things to prevent that kind of trauma from happening to us, so that we can become the future leaders that help prevent other people that look like us from experiencing that kind of similar fate or that same fate. That was in the 1950s. People are still getting lynched today. In the traditional sense, and in a new sense, people are still getting lynched because of what they look like. And that's a sad truth. It's a hard truth and a sad truth. And it's important that as you're looking for and challenging your friends and your peers to be allies, they have to know those things. But it is not your responsibility to do that. Protect your own energy as well. So that's what a lot of what I'm talking about today is coming from my heart. I did make notes this time to help keep me on track, but I also want people listening to this know that this is not to exclude anybody, but I'm talking to people that this might resonate with, and those that don't look like me could be well served in hearing what I have to say about that. With that said, it's Sunday. Happy Sunday, everybody. Sunday is typically a day of worship for people, which is part of the reason why I did this a little bit later than earlier, because some people are tuning into their church stuff on Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook, things like that. And it's important that we don't allow our faith, for those that are faith practicing, to stop us from doing what we need to do and what is right and what is not right. A lot of times people think that if you're taking a position, it's political, and it's not what the Bible would say to do. The difficult part about being in a position that I'm in, or for other black people who experience trauma, is this: we have to know so much more than what we're taught in school. And we have to always combat all these different things from different sides. For example, a popular expression right now is a shut up and dribble and a more than an athlete hashtag. And that came about when LeBron James was being very outspoken about black issues. And people were pretty much telling him to stay in his lane. When you have comedians or other people that are providing commentary on social issues outside of a comedy stage, they're told that they should stick to their comedy. And I think about that and I wonder, well, why must you be a historian or a statistician or a politician in order to talk about things that impact you in your life directly?